Yo, yo, welcome to the Roadmap to Understanding the Genetic Jump. So, what is the genetic jump, Jim? What is this thing? Well, what I call the genetic jump is something that humanity is currently going through that is an evolutionary jump forward for the species. Our genetics is changing. I look at myself. I'm an empath, a telepath, and a medium. And these things that I am, that I do, are based in my genes and my genetics. It's all natural. It's nothing supernatural. It has nothing to do with God. Has nothing to do with any magic ritual I did to give me such abilities. I was born doing this, and there's a lot of people around the world that are just like me. Well, some of them have different gifts than I do. They can do stuff I can't do. I can do stuff they can't do. And I hear more and more reports. I don't like to call it stories because it means there might be some fiction there, and there is no fiction in what these people have to say. One of the nice parts about being a telepath and an empath is I know absolutely every time somebody's lying to me, which is also has its downsides too, because you meet people that you grow to care about and trust, and you also pick up on their lies. And it's something that the empathic trait seems to be the commonality. I mean, I look at genetics, and empathy is something that every human being has the possibility of tapping into. Intuition is something we all have the possibility of tapping into. Some of us have a genetic structure that allows us to have a higher level of psychic gifts. But it is all in the genetics, and it is evolution as our species moves forward. The other portion of this is I've noticed amongst those who have already become a part through their genetics and when they were born, we each have this internal drive, this internal connection in a very spiritual way with life. We look around at the current paradigm, the world that we live in now, the society we live in, especially here in the United States, where spirituality, generally speaking, is scoffed at or laughed at unless it's wrapped up in a pretty little religion that has followers and people can make money off of it or go someplace and congregate. Spirituality isn't a group effort, it's an individual effort. It's an individual effort to learn and understand that you are a spirit wrapped in flesh, learning what it's like to live life as a human being and do it to its fullest potential and see what the full potential of your humanness can be, to create the best and greatest possible human experience, not only for yourself, but in doing so, creating the best possible human experience for those people around you and the lives that you touch. The genetics of this evolutionary jump, there's a lot of theories as to what started it, what created it. I think it's just more or less what we started out as. There's an interesting story I heard once, and this time I will say story. A friend told me that the first humans were immensely beautiful and powerful creatures with four arms, four legs, and two heads, and that the gods became so jealous because of our great power of manifestation and creation that they split us in half, and it explains the battle of the sexes. I like that story. It's a fun one. But, and it does give a little more insight on a metaphorical level to what humanity can be, because I have noticed that two heads are always better than one. Even with my IQ being over 200, being a telepath, an empath, and a medium, I find I reach deeper levels of understanding when in conversation with another, when spending time with somebody else. The empathy is only really good for other people. What's the use of being a telepath if there's nobody else around? That's part of being a telepath. Tapping into other people and helping them to understand their own internal wisdom. I mean, as a telepath, the way that I choose to use my skill, and it is a choice, is to allow the subconscious mind of the individuals that I'm talking to guide me into being able to explain to the individual or individuals that I am talking to in a way that they will understand. To take these high levels of understanding that I have, they're at a very conceptual level, and allowing the audience essentially to guide my mind, to guide my thought process and my words to better explain the concepts that we're talking about. Because if you can't explain it to somebody else, it's worthless. So, the genetic jump. I have heard of children who can teleport, as well as speaking with spirits, manipulating energy, allowing the wisdom of the universe to channel right through them, and they start explaining things that they've never been educated on or exposed to. I've been doing that my entire life, still do it today. And it always tends to irritate people because they had to study. And they barely understand that which they study. And I say that because all they do is regurgitate what they got out of a book. And nobody wants to see somebody do what I do without going through their steps of rituals and ceremonies, and having to go to this school or that school, or study under this master or that master, this guru. Everybody wants recognition for the amount of time in their life that they have devoted to reaching their level of understanding of the world we live in and of themselves. And the ego says, well, you didn't do it my way, so you're wrong, silly man there on the screen. But here's the thing. I'm not wrong. One of the things that from my own understanding in my roadmap, there are many points on my map in which I have had experiences with other people and groups of people that have shown me I'm absolutely correct. One of the fun things about my gifts is I'm also an amplifier of energy, any energy. And when I sync up with somebody, I wrap my energy around them and amplify them up. One woman described the experience as being wrapped in electricity and feeling a fullness in her chest and feeling herself amped up. Another friend of mine describes it as just being completely amped up and having her energy level just go through the roof. Her and I have a very similar gift set. Others have described my energy as being so intense is the word I want to use, so intense that it gives them a headache. A friend of mine, her mom can't hardly walk into the room when her and I are talking, or she gets a headache because of the way our energy syncs up and works together. The human species is evolving genetically. And what I see as what's going on and the responsibility that, responsibility. Responsibility is a good word here. I feel the responsibility that those of us, like myself, who are at this age. We're adults. We're in places where we can do things. Uh, we have a responsibility to start educating the rest of the world, the rest of society on, hey, this is who we are, this is what we do, this is where our species is going. We need to make this more mainstream for the ever growing number of children who are coming into this world that do these things as well. Because it is their world. We're just caretakers until they're ready to take it over. As our parents and the generations before us were caretakers for preparing us to take it over and to care for it. And it's been like that since the beginning of humanity. We are here to learn what we can to prepare the next generation to go further than we have. And that has been hampered as of late. There's a lot of people out there that can do what I do that won't tell you. And the reason they won't tell you is because of the ridicule that they face. Many of them get thrown in mental institutions called crazy. I had my own son taken from me because of it. Uh, so I get that. And then the other side of the equation, and I've had this argument with the old guard more than once, and I'm always happy to have it with them and ram it down their throats. They don't want to come out of the freak closet, out of the basement, really is what I call it, coming out of the basement, because it seems like to me that everybody would rather people like me were chained up in a basement and forgotten about. But for them, coming out of the basement is having to look at all the people they've known their entire lives and say, hey, yeah, I do that too. And having those people look at them and go, well, have you been using that to manipulate me? Or seeing where these people have been using it to manipulate. Not everybody uses these gifts with integrity, and that's important to know, because it is easy easy for people like me to manipulate those around us. And it's even easier when you have no idea what it is you're dealing with. So another portion of this episode of Roadmap to Understanding is educating those who don't know anything about this into looking closer at the people around them and seeing, wait, this person right here, they always seem to get just absolutely everything they want out of everybody with no explanation. Here's your explanation. They're using their genetic gifts to emotionally and mentally manipulate the people around them. It's not very nice. It's not love. That's not unconditional love. That is deception. That is rude. That is criminal in my book. I mean, really, what we really need to make sure this genetic jump goes as smoothly as it can is we need to have it in our education system, teaching our children to tap into their intuition, not teaching them to regurgitate everything they read out of a book and memorize dates and names and all that crap, but teaching them how to tap into their own intuition, into their own internal mechanism for wisdom and guidance that is driven by spirit, which is driven by integrity, honesty, truth. And it's these kids that I do not want to see like my own son, who at 9 years old has already shown many signs of being as gifted as I am and with gifts I do not possess. The idea of him facing the ridicule that I have faced and continue to face breaks my heart, pisses me off too. Really brings out that protective lion spirit of protecting my family. And I look at this entire world as one human family, and I'm down to protect any one of you who is facing ridicule unjustly, who is facing, well, I don't believe you unless there's some machine that can quantify and qualify what it is you are. And until we can get a good reading with some machine, well, you're just a mythological creature who doesn't exist. I've actually had this discussion on professional groups and LinkedIn, and these are the words that people have thrown in my face, that I don't exist and my gifts don't exist until technology reaches a point where they can monitor us on a machine. Now, that is the most ignorant, just downright ignorant fucking thing I've ever heard. Okay? And I'm not even gonna apologize for the language because that's how much it upsets me. You're lucky I'm not yelling into the mic, uh, but that's how much emotional control I have. You know. And for those of you who are sensitive, I'm sure you felt the spike in my emotional energy as I was talking, which it'd be great if you guys would leave that in comments. That'd be fun. Call it a little experiment. Uh, but the genetic jump is something that's ongoing. And right now, by my best estimates, we're at about 10% of the world is easily as gifted as I am. And the numbers are growing. In 20 years, it'll be closer to 50. In 40 years, it'll be 99. And it's going to be 1% of the mundane. And then what are you going to do? What are you going to do in 20 years at 50? The best part is you look at gifts like mine and what it can do for society and progressing society. As an empathic amplifier, telepath, and a medium, a great example of what an empath and telepath can do teamed up together to help reduce crime and make things better is take a moment and imagine, if you will, that you are an empath capable of draining the emotions right out of somebody just with a, oh, I'm just going to rub my hand on your back for a second. I'm just going to put my hand on your shoulder here for a second. And I'm going to drain you and give you stabilizing energy that's going to keep you chilled, calm, and able to intelligently listen to the words that are coming out of my mouth. So you've got empaths walking around in plain clothes. They walk into, say, a bar. They get a sense off someone who is emotionally hurting, has emotional wounds right down to the soul that have allowed the individual to become somebody who has no problem inflicting that pain on others as a way to justify having it happen to them. I mean, it's basic human psychology. The abused often turns into the abuser, mimicking the behavior because it's the only way they can accept that it happened to them, is to do it to other people as a way of purging themselves, and it never quite works out. Look at serial killers; it's the same thing. So you have an empath that walks up behind this individual, puts his hand on their shoulder, and says, "Hey, how you doing? Hey, yeah, no, yeah, we caught on to what you were doing. So yeah, this is your wife. Here's a card. Take this card, and see the appointment on there you have. That's for you to go in and get your counseling and start your counseling session, so we can get you all healed. All right, so you don't feel like doing those bad things to people anymore. You know what I mean?" And that's an actual, very realistic scenario. It's something I've been doing in bars my entire life. Well, without the appointment setter, but there have been many times in my life I've walked up behind somebody, walked by somebody, and gave them a brief touch to clear them out, and watch them go, "Whoa, what? Whoa!" And they end up having a good time the rest of the way. And the bad things, the violent things that they wanted to do, they don't do. At least that night. I can't be there every night. I know that at some point in time, unless they do get that healing, unless they do come to terms with what it is that has their soul so scarred within, that where all that hurt comes from, they are going to go around and inflict that pain. All right. Now, here's another fun part of being a telepath. I can tap the wisdom of the entire room. So I literally am the smartest guy in every room I walk into. And half the time, the wisdom that's coming out of my mouth isn't mine. I'm channeling it from everybody in the room, or with the medium gift, I'm channeling it from Source, the universe itself, universal consciousness, the wisdom of everything that is out there and here and all around us. So when I redesigned the operating model for United Healthcare, Fortune 100 company, 10 years ago, it wasn't just my ideas that went into that. It was tapping the wisdom of everyone around me who had experience in doing what we were doing and getting the best ideas into my design that was simple and efficient. So you take somebody like me and you hire somebody like me, a telepath, to wander around from department to department, say your research and development center, and talk to the different project heads, and in 5 minutes furthering research by 6 months, in 5 minutes furthering research by years. Flip side of that, you have empaths that you just give them something to do, and let them stabilize your office environment, keeping it productive, keeping it energized, and being there when people do have those stressful times, and having somebody to talk to. We're natural born counselors, healers. There are a lot of different ways that every one of us who has popped up early in this genetic jump can help you to prepare you for this younger generation that's coming into the workforce that does the same things we do, so that you're better able to more efficiently utilize the skills that are coming to you wrapped in flesh. These people who will read minds, these people who can, I got a friend of mine that we call it Technomage. He's able to manipulate computer systems very, very easily without ever really even having to touch it, just kind of wave his hands over the keyboard and whatnot. These people do exist. Me, I speak algorithm. Always have. I didn't realize other people couldn't do it. It's really the part of the problem, was I didn't realize that I thought everybody could do it. I thought everybody could understand what was going on behind the scenes in their computer, the way that I always have. And my skills are nothing in that area compared to a buddy of mine who I really should be doing some of these videos with. But it's something that is genetic. It's not God, people. It's not witchcraft. It's not Satan. It's not the devil. It's not aliens. It's not angels. It's not the Fae. It's not this spirit. It's not Hindu gods. It is human DNA, human genetics, and the numbers are growing at an exponential rate. I got a friend of mine with 3 kids, all 3 of them gifted. I have 2 children myself, both gifted. Everybody I have ever talked to who's got a higher level of intuition and is already part of this genetic advancement, their children are well more advanced than they are. I've got a couple of friends and who are 21. I'm 40. They're 21. Easily more gifted than I am. Easily, both of them, more gifted than I am. And that's why I look at myself as a teacher and a guide. I can't always match what they can do, but I can always teach them how to do it better and how to manage it better, and give them the guidance to use it for the betterment not just of their own lives, but of the lives of people around them. And if there's anything that I want you to take away from this episode of Roadmap to Understanding Genetic Jump, it is that human beings are evolving right now. It is an evolutionary jump that cannot be stopped, cannot be silenced, cannot be shut out. At some point, the mainstream is going to need to accept us because we will not be quiet. We won't go away. We won't stay in the basement. And for me personally, there's been one song that I've kind of held on to that's been an inspiration in times of having to deal with all the ridicule. And excuse me, it's "Freak Like Me" by Hailstrom. I love me some Lizzie Hale. That girl, she is a legitimate rock and roll badass. To me, she is like Joan Jett and Lita Ford into one little badass package of rock and roll. And when she belts out "Freak Like Me," you know, it makes me feel as though I'm not alone, because there are a lot of freaks like me out there. We're not freaks. We're not genetic freaks. We're not mutants. We're human beings. We're just more advanced than some of you. And it's about time that the rest of you start accepting that. And in closing this episode of Roadmap to Understanding, I want to make a humble request that each and every one of you that watches this video, who may not yet be accepting of this genetic jump, I would ask if you would please take the next 5 minutes to exercise some empathy yourself. Take the next 5 minutes and put yourself in my shoes. Take the next 5 minutes and Google what's an empath. Take a look. Start reading. Start researching. Start learning who we are, and that we are nothing more than more advanced human beings, and the kids behind us are more advanced than we are. Thank you. And until next time, just keep the unconditional love flowing, and just the acceptance and love. Go out and give somebody a hug that you don't know today, like random person you meet in the grocery store. I've done this before, and it's great. People you meet on the street, you start talking to, you go out there with unconditional love in your heart, and you will find somebody to give a hug to. I guarantee it. And if you don't, well, then you're doing it wrong. I love you guys. See you next time. Bye-bye.